Hi, I'm John Anderson. I'm with the Cambridge Springs Kiwanis. My wife Judy and I, who's with the Gamsack Women's Club in town, came across this program we call Christmas for Kids a number of years ago. It's been a wonderful thing. The Cambridge Springs Kiwanis Club has been around the community for 66 years, and actually this program we call Christmas for Kids has as well. It goes back probably to days when there were several merchants in town and became part of the Cambridge Springs Exchange Club. Took this project on. It's basically trying to get Santa Claus to bring a little more cheer to some homes that otherwise might not be just so happy because of some difficulties they may be having. We accumulate those names through various sources, the ministerium, through forms we have to the library, and also the youngsters at the school take them home, and we find out just who they are in the sense of size, and boys or girls, and ages, and we make some appropriate gifts, get some appropriate gifts together. Currently, the two organizations, the Women's Club and the Kiwanis Club, muster together as many as 50 volunteers, I'm going to suggest. There's 10 to 12 hardcore that put in more hours than others, as many projects like this do. But we'll find ourselves with the wrapping day when we try to wrap presents for these kids, and let me quantify that a little bit for you. We generally are seeing somewhere around 120 to 130 youngsters, and that is about 55 to 60 households. Now, when each youngster is getting a gift of a book, a toy animal or stuffed animals, hats and mittens, new clothing items, a top and bottom, a complete outfit, and at least one toy, that puts at least 3 or 4 gifts times 120 or so, and it makes for a pretty big job of getting them wrapped. And I will tell you that it's a wonderful thing to see as many as 30 or so volunteers at the fire hall, and we utilize the Quedango Fire Hall as we call North Pole South, to go in there on a Sunday afternoon and wrap, and we are probably done in about an hour and a half's time. They get serious about it. There's a lot of paper and a lot of ribbon flying. From there, then, we group these by routes, and we have a day that's picked the week prior to Christmas, when we have generally about 8 Santas. It's been as few as 5, but typically 8 or 9 Santas and their elf drivers that load up the vehicles on a Wednesday evening or Thursday evening and head out to the countryside. There are country folks, and particularly because we service those in the Cambridge Springs attendance area, we find ourselves on quite a route, quite a ride. Most of the students are home and are surprised to see us because it's a secret between Mom and Santa that he's coming. Santa will knock on the door, and we hope that the pet dog is tied up in the back and otherwise not available. Hasn't always been that way, but most times it's a friendly reception. Santa will go in and do this ho-ho thing, which means distribute some gifts, but it means more than that too. We have a lot of anonymous givers, and one that we're really proud of is the young fellow that comes forward with apples and fruit and candy canes for each of these youngsters. And it's probably an apple or an orange so large these youngsters haven't seen one before. There's a lot of noise. This coming from a Santa who's been able to be in that chair in that living room many times and see that happen. But one of the beautiful things is that for the last several years, the employees at the Cambridge Springs Lord plant have bothered themselves to afford and bundle a dinner, a box of all the groceries needed to put together a wonderful dinner. So while Santa loads up the Christmas tree, the kitchen gets a little delivery as well. Needless to say, there's some tears and all of that. There's a lot of surprise and a lot of happiness that happens, which is the gist of what Santa's there for, just to make Christmas a little bit easier and a little bit better for that household. One of the things that makes this program work is, of course, the volunteers that we have. Not many of them are affiliated with the churches or the clubs that I just mentioned. Many are just individuals that have a heart to do this. In fact, many times we will find, even for those who are wrapping, and especially for those who are making the Santa visits themselves, they'll tell me, put me on the list for next year. It makes Christmas for me. It's what it's all about. To see those kids and their surprise. And frankly, we know they're genuine. And I've often said to others, it's really moving not only to be the Santa and make the delivery, but when the Santas come back to the North Pole South, the Quedango Fire Hall, the women have supper for them. These Santas and their helpers have been on the road since 5 o'clock, and it's generally 7:30 or 8, and they have a supper. Sitting there enjoying supper and hearing their stories and seeing wet cheeks on Santa Claus is a beautiful thing, and kind of underscores why we have no problem with volunteers Many of those volunteers, and even each year I seem to find new faces and new volunteers come in, and one or more will say, I can remember when Santa came to my house, and this is payback time. Santa was on one of his last stops and heading back towards the fire hall. Knocked on the door, went in, and there was a little Joey, we'll call him, about waist-high young fella. So excited to see Santa, and just all over Santa, hugging him by the leg and all that. And Santa gets his bag out and distributes the gifts, and it's just a wonderful thing. And Joey's mom is there, and she says as I was leaving the house, I want to see you on the front porch just a moment. So we exit, we go out on the front porch, and she said, how did you know? I said, ma'am, what do you mean, how did you know? She said, I just told Joey that there wouldn't be a Christmas this year. Because Joey's daddy just left yesterday, and we don't have a car, we don't have money, we weren't gonna have Christmas. And then you walk in, how did you know? Well, ma'am, whether we knew and how we knew, all I simply said was, Santa knows more than you know, and Santa's got Joey on a list. And we left it at that. But I tell you now, that was a number of years ago, and it still rides with me, still is close to the heart.